How strong is Mordred lore-wise? Finally, after Iskander, we finally have a character whose strength sort of differs from their lore and servant self quite a bit. Mordred, otherwise known as the Knight of Treachery or Rebellion, was a Knight of the Round Table. That alone should tell you that she is stronger than your average knight or heroic spirit, because the Round Table was just built different. According to the Apocrypha material, even if you got the weakest of them, you're still getting a very decent heroic spirit. Mordred is credited with inflicting the wound on Artoria that eventually took her life, basically retired her to Avalon until she returns again in the future. More on that later. Mordred was a homunculus that was created by Morgan using Artoria's semen during a questionable period of her life, thanks to Merlin, where she got another sword that fired baby batter instead of giant beams. Both can ruin your life, though, if you think about it. She then used said semen, which she extracted through some means, most likely magecraft, and not by literally sleeping with her sister, I hope, and implemented it in her womb to create Mordred. Mordred was not an actual child, but more of a clone of Artoria, and because she was a homunculus, that means that she had a very short lifespan. Eventually, however, Mordred joined the ranks of the Round Table, confronted Artoria, who was like, which led to Mochan feeling abandoned and stuff. She turned against Artoria and a giant civil war broke out. In the end, the whole thing fell. We know how things goes. So let's talk about her skills and abilities instead. First of all, her being a clone of Artoria, she basically has everything that Artoria has, but weaker. She has instincts just like Artoria, but her instincts are ranked at B, which are weaker than Artoria's A. Instinct is essentially choosing the most optimal course of action in battle, and stuff like illusions or hallucinations, i.e. visual or sound-based obstacles or attacks, are not very effective. Their effects are effectively halved. This skill allows her to see through the mist of Jack the Ripper. She was also able to sense and react to her attack on her master, and she also managed to dodge one of Chiron's attacks and parry another one from Karna during the run through the castle of Yggdrasil. She also got her father's second skill, Mana Burst. This one is ranked at A, similar to Artoria's. The Artoria's can go up to A+ in some forms. Although it is not explicitly mentioned whether she has a dragon core or not, she still inherited the dragon traits from Artoria. So even if she doesn't have a dragon core, she still boasts massive amounts of mana that allows her to use Mana Burst as well. Now, Mana Burst, as mentioned in my How Strong is Artoria video, is an ability that functions as jet propulsion, which not only strengthens the user's attacks and defenses by strengthening their body, but can also be fired from their weapons like light beams or laser, whatever you call this thing. Mordred used this to even the playing field against many of her opponents, including Artoria during her lifetime, and she went back and forth with her before she was impaled with Rongominiad. It also allows Mordred to jump massive distances, and her stomps are strong enough to shake the ground. Not only that, she can also use it to enhance her speed, casually breaking the sound barrier. Along with that, due to the curse that she had on her sword, placed there by Morgan because she's a very loving sister that cares for Artoria and wants to kill her at the same time, she has battle continuation of sorts. This curse was placed on Mordred's sword to take out Artoria with her if she was killed. This allowed her to put everything she had in her final strike to slash Artoria with everything. When she was impaled with Rongominiad, which caused Artoria's skull to crack open and one of her eyes was destroyed in this attack. Battle continuation, or rather this curse, didn't actually pilot her body, but it did provide her with the extra oomph needed to get the job done. Otherwise, she would have been dead right then and there. Lastly, she also has Charisma, the same skill that Artoria has. It is lower than Artoria's, sitting at C-. Charisma is not a skill that works on oneself, but allows one to command armies and shows that one can rule a country or a continent. For Mordred, C- shows that she can command an army, and this was shown perfectly when she was able to raise the rebel army against her father back in Camelot. However, with her level of charisma, she cannot run a country effectively. Her noble phantasm is Clarent, a sword that enhances the king's authority and royal aura. It raises the user's physical stats by 1 rank and raises their charisma skill too. So for Mordred, her charisma would probably become something like B or B- if the sword was actually given to Mordred. More on that here in a second. It is a sword similar to Caliburn in the sense that it is given to a king during succession, whereas Caliburn chooses the king. Both swords act as an authority of the king, however Clarent is more suited for battle than Caliburn. It is a very beautiful sword. Now Mordred was never acknowledged as king because she stole Clarent from the vault while Artoria was away in Rome, dealing with the man, the legend, Lucius Tiberius, most likely. So instead of boosting her parameters and shit, it nerfed itself from a B rank weapon to a C rank weapon. However, even in this state, she was able to match Balmud, which you can say was not being utilized to its fullest by Sieg, who was not using Siegfried's full power. But you have to understand, even Clarent is not being utilized at its fullest due to Mochan not being worthy of it and stealing it instead.
I forgot to mention this here, but due to Clarent's mana amplifying abilities and Mordred's mana burst, Mordred can fire a beam too. This beam, Clarent Blood Arthur, is ranked A+ and is an anti-army noble phantasm. This beam has helped her as a servant, such as when she blew past Tesla's lightning and possession Siegfried's armor of Fafnir when both of them were buffed.
Her second and last noble phantasm is her helmet and potentially her armor as well. Her armor was made to rebel against King Arthur, but it doesn't boast anything outside of a good defense and whatnot. Her helmet, however, is an actual noble phantasm. It hides her true identity from everyone. Back in Camelot as well, no one knew who Mordred was underneath all that. In a Holy Grail War, it functions by hiding her true name, her face, concealing her status information, so you cannot find out what her noble phantasm is ranked at, or what her parameters, is her agility, what is her strength. None of that. You can find none of them out. However, to use Clarent, she has to remove her helmet. She also stole Pridewind from the vault alongside Clarent. Pridewind is a shield/ship of King Arthur. It can change between these two forms depending on its need, and while it was never used against Artoria during their fight, she also doesn't use it in her saber form. However, her rider form uses a Pridewind as a surfboard. With her skills and noble phantasm out of the way, let's talk about where she falls among the knights. I would say she is comfortably somewhere in the middle, above Bedivere, Garrus, Gareth, and Kay, but below the likes of Gawain, Lancelot, Galahad, Percival, and Artoria. For reference, Mordred was never able to beat Gawain in a fight. Lancelot is equal to Gawain and Artoria managed to spar with Gawain during noon at the peak of his strength without breaking a sweat, according to him in Fate Stella. And Galahad is someone who is thought to be stronger than Lancelot. At the round table, she is around Tristan's level, but he is more skilled than her in my personal opinion. The reason she is in the middle is because of her mana burst and abilities. Skill-wise, none of the round table's knights are slouches. Some are better than the others, and I think when it comes to skill, Kay and Mordred are about even, but they're below the likes of Gawain, Lancelot, Galahad, Percival, and above Bedivere, Gareth, and all those. We don't know where about Palmidus to rank him anywhere. As servant, Mochan has fought against and held her own against Karna, Chiron, Lancer, Artoria, Alter, with help from others, Spartacus, among others. And here's a fun fact for you. The funniest thing in her interlude is that Merlin says that had he been Mordred's teacher, she would have committed suicide long before she rebelled against Artoria. With that, now you know where she sits, and that she can handle herself against top tiers eventually. However, they will come out on top unless until an external force/nudge is used to give her the extra boost she needs to close the gap. Next up, we're gonna have a long one here because we'll be discussing Emiya and Gilgamesh on the series, so look out for that, because Emiya and Gilgamesh are genuinely like some of the characters that need to be discussed, like Artoria. And I understand that this video didn't talk about much, but like I said before, the whole series is not meant to talk about them as servants, but about what they could do in real life. With that being said, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, share it with your friends to get them into Type Moon, and subscribe for more Time Moon stuff. And with that being said, adios.